Okay, so our today's agenda will be this a future method in Salesforce. So I think it's a part of asynchronous Apex only. So it was not covered yet. So I have included this one inside this future method, web services, and then Apex callout, REST and SOAP APIs, which are also part of web services and Apex callouts. And the part of Apex is the last part of Apex is the test class. So first is future method. So future method is nothing but that will be run in your background. Like we don't we will not be able to monitor it, and it will run in the background. So if we are performing with the data which is the which is taking too much time, or we don't need to monitor that, then we can use the simple future method, and it will go behind the scene, and it will work it out. So if there is any data which should a web services or call out thing, so if we are making update for external services, I'm using Salesforce, and I want to make a change in .NET or any other SAP or Oracle database, then I'll just go and use this future method, because I don't need to monitor that, and we are not able to monitor because it is available in external resources, external org, or I can say external database. So we are connected with that, and we are we will simply use this future method to uh, run that transaction in background. Because what happens is, like, when we use this web services and all in and we are not using this future method or base classes or schedulable classes, then the transaction will be performing in front of us, and it can take more time based on the connectivity, and because it will it can take more time based on the connectivity of the external resources, or the data, how much data you are performing, or you are giving, or you are fetching from external resources. So that depends on the those, and it takes time. So in that scenario, if we want to work with other things, so what we do is we use this future method, and it will go in the background, and it will perform that action, and we can do whatever we want in front of us, and it will not be visible, and we can't also monitor that. So if there is any issue or error, it will throw any error, and we can see in the debug log, but we can't monitor that. Okay. So to use this future method, we simply so in our simple test, or in our simple Apex class, any method we write, static void and method name. So that is simple. What we don't need to do anything. We just need to annotate this. We just need to write this @future before the method name. So let me show you here. Let's say this is my class. So if I want to make this method as a future method, so I'll just write this one. So what it will do is, it will consider this method as a future method, and when whatever action, so here also you can create another method, you let me write point method, and you can perform any action here. So in this class, what it will do is, it will perform first action, this, whether you have also written this this execute method before, but it will perform this method first, and if when their resources will get free, then it will go and it will run this method. So it will be it will put this method in the queue. When the resources will get free, then it will perform this action. So we don't need to do anything, just write this future notation in our before our method name, and we can use that. And these are some feature of future method. Future method must be static. So always if there is like return value inside his method, then it we can't use that future annotate. So you also have seen that error future. So if I'll go and save this, it will give you the error. So here this is the global future method must be declared as static. So here we need to use this static void execute. Then it will not give you any error. And obviously we can't use the syntax. So that is also another thing. Like this is the specified parameter must be primitive data type or arrays of primitive data type or collection of primitive data type. So we can't use this like standard object or custom object thing. We only can we will all be only able to use primitive data type, like we can use id con ids. So this we can use, or we can use simply integer, like integer or string, anything. So we can use primitive data type, but we can't use like this sorry, account ACC, that we cannot use, or list of account, that also we cannot use. Whatever that parameter will be from your account, or sorry, custom or standard object, that we cannot use. But we can use this list of string and then account. So primitive data type, it only available for this future method, and we can only perform this future method with the primitive data type. And so this is that we can't perform this with standard and custom object argument. And a common pattern is to pass method is to list of record id. So if you want to perform with the with your sorry, if you want to perform this future method with your sorry, object, then before this create a list of sorry, create a public, sorry, list of account, and then here create another method, and then here you can write, simply go and select, sorry, select id from account and store this in this list, and then use this id, sorry, list of id, and then here you can use that one. So all the ids from this account will be stored in this account list. Okay, so now you can pass this because it is a list of id, and you can pass this as a value. Okay, got it. So here you can go, and then in this method you can select a query by this id. Like you can use, like, select id name from the id from account where id in this. So where id in this list. So the inside that method you can perform any action. Okay, so that's how you can use this future method. Any issue with that? So here you can see like future method, you can perform any insert, update, trigger. Like in with trigger also you can use this future method, but you only will be able to use this future method inside a class. So from trigger you can call a class which will be having this future method. So it will update record again. So if you are updating record in or updating or inserting record in trigger, and you are calling a class which is a future method, then it will update that record inside this trigger, and then again it will call, and it will, whenever this future method will run, then it will again update this record. Then again this trigger will be running. So that's the thing we should keep in mind whenever we are writing this future method with the trigger. Okay, so our next topic is web services. So that was the synchronous apex, and that's how we can use asynchronous apex in our Salesforce. And we can use of more number of limits and all. Yeah, and there is a like I have given a wrong information on the synchronous apex and the future method. So future method is right, is I have just used. So web services are uh, not that which will be performing or which will be give like yeah, performing when the resources will get free, but only the future method will run when the resources will get free. But asynchronous apex is something where you will so Salesforce will be providing more number of like I can say governor limits and all, and there we can so there is like queuable and schedulable classes. So on those classes and batch classes, we can use those asynchronous limits, and we can perform our actions. So the all the other asynchronous apex things like queuable and schedulable and batchable classes are not will not be running when resources get free, but they will be running in the background, and they will not run when the resources will get free. They will run instantly, but only the future method is the the class where it will go and run whenever the resources will get free. So that was the thing I wanted to make sure before this class. So yes, and so this is the web services. Any issue with the synchronous class, synchronous Apex till now? Okay. So web services. Web services, so web services are a part of integration where we can use REST or SOAP web services to connect Salesforce data with external applications like .NET or Java or like SAP or other technology or other application, and we can perform like update, delete, or insert actions with the data. Like we can update, delete inside our Salesforce, and we can update, delete, insert in the external data as well. So by using these web services, we can perform these actions, and that's how we write these web services like on which object. So this is the like GET method here. You can see this is HTTP GET. So it is the GET method is you. So you will have this GET, POST, PUT methods while working with the APIs, like while working with the web services and callouts. You will perform this. So for for retrieving data, like if you want to retrieve data from external resource, you need to use this get. If you want to put the data sorry, if you want to update update or delete the data, you use this put and there is like post thing. So in that you can use update and insert. Okay, so put will be useful for the delete one, and in add and update will be the post one. So there are number of things you can also. There are some other also actions available for web services and APIs. So you can go with the Trailhead resources which I have included over here, and you can go through once with that, and you will get a better understanding on that. I also don't have that much of experience with that, but I have used once in my project somewhere. So I'll try my best to give you the understanding. So this is the simple web services where we have used this HTTP GET, and this is the class. And before this class, we have to use this REST resource URL mapping. So what it will do is it will go and it will retrieve all the data from external service, and it will that whatever action you will perform. So here what still use it is using it. So in let's say ki I am connecting my Salesforce data with SAP, and what it will do is it will go this. So this is the REST resource. So it will go, and this is the URL mapping. We have to specify that URL mapping and which object you want to use. So this is the URL mapping, and that should be correct. So if it will go into the SAP, and it will find this account, and this star will contain all the records from that account. Okay, so it will go and retrieve, and here you are mapping using this gate, so it will go and retrieve all the account from that URL mapping which you have provided, and it will give you response in this web service static method. So here you have to use this web service name and then static and account you are returning account. So here it is using account and then your method name and all the logic you want to perform, all the records will be here. So whatever logic you want to perform, you want to add this data inside your Salesforce, so you can add. If you want to update, you can update. You can if you want to perform any action based on this data, you can perform. So this is how this web service will work. So this is very simple. You just need to use this web service and that REST resources which should be correct with the external service. So now, like, I will not be able to create this REST resources, and also because I don't have it will be only useful when we are working with external resources. So we should have that external resources connectivity, like we should have username and password. So right now, like, I don't have any external resources username password where I will be finding any database tables and all. So it is not possible to for me to show you, but you can go once with the trailhead thing. So let me go and show you in the trailhead. Okay. So in the trailhead you can find some web services thing, and you can create, and it will give you some tasks to complete for so let me search over here. Okay, trailhead. Okay. So here it will give you some tasks to perform, at the end of the thing, end of this. So this I have completed. So here it will give you what type of class you have to create, and so it is using this test class as well. So let me give you understanding from starting. So that's how you can retrieve data. So this is the get method. You can perform this global with sharing and my resource set, and this is the account which we have used in our example. These are some annotations which we can perform. So HTTP GET to read the data, HTTP POST to create records, okay, we have delete also, and sorry, so put is useful to upsert the data. Like upsert, if we are upserting data, then we have to use this put. If we want to update the data, then this page will be performing. This page, HTTP page, will be useful. If you want to delete, then delete, create, then post. So that's how this web services will work. And here, so we have to create this web services class, and if we want to perform any action in our system, then this web services like class will be performing, and here you can perform any action in our sorry in our org. Like if you want to update or insert or delete, then we can perform. And here is the full class. So you can perform this get, you can perform this post, and here it is using these cases. So cases will be the object for now, and all the cases will be coming retrieving. So so here it is so here you can write this SOQL to perform whatever field you want to use for this. And so just go through once with this and you will get better understanding. And if you have any question, please let me know, so I'll try to help you with this. And our next topic is Apex callout, so which is also very similar. So what? Okay, this is also so web services. I have by mistake I have used this future method for every picture. leave it for now. And this is the web services example where Salesforce will request and it will use this internet with the external data, and this web services will take the request and it will give you response from the external data by using this internet. Okay, this is very simple. And Apex callouts. So this will be useful with the when we are working with the WSDL file. You know about WSDL file? Have you worked with this? It's a simple XML type of format where it will give you the all the object field and the schema of object, and it will return you all the records from that sorry, all the fields, or like I can say schema of that table. And by using that WSDL file you can create a simple um, Apex class by using JSON, and you can retrieve all the field, and you can use inside Apex class. Okay, so Apex callout, here you can it's also part of integration. You can use SOAP and REST for that, and that will be also same with the web services, and you can use this get to post, delete, and put with that. So here that WSDL file be using, and you can create that simple like integration or connection between external resources and Salesforce. So let me show you on the trailhead only. Callouts in, let me show you here. Okay. So callouts, so Apex callouts are two types of callouts, so REST and SOAP. Let me give. So this is the REST API. So REST API, it will give you it will take your application will give a request. If you are using this REST API, then it will give you a request with this go get, post, and page and delete plus JSON payload. So it will create a JSON with your data, and it will give a request to REST API, and that REST API will go to the Salesforce server, and it will fetch all the like data, and it will give you the response in the XML payload, which is the WSDL file in our case. So this is the REST API. REST API means like representational state transfer API. So it will use this all the thing like HTTP GET and POST and thing, and it will give you this REST context class and request and response classes. So here you can see this is the overview of integration, and this is the RESTful API. The RESTful API, like REST API, will also take these. So here you don't see this page thing. You can only see this upsert, delete, create, and fetch. So this is for fetch the data, read the data. This is for insert the data. This is for delete the data, and this is for um, update. Sorry, page is for update the data, I guess. Replace the resources sent in request body. Okay, create or replace. So this is for upsert the data. Okay, so you cannot use the page and thing, and here you can see that we have to create this HTTP, and then we have to set this endpoint, which is the external endpoint. Like in this case, they are using this Heroku app, which is the external app, and this is the endpoint of that external service. And here the it is setting that gate, whatever you want to, like you can use the post if you want to create data, you can use delete if you want to delete the data, and it is creating a request over here, and that is the HTTP response, which will send that request to that HTTP server, and then it will get a response, a code, like it will like if there is any error, then it will give you that 404 error. So if that response is successfully fired, then it will give you this 200 code. So you can check, like if this status code is 200, then it should uh, perform another actions based on this successfully integration. If that is not exactly with this 200, then you will having any error, and you can handle that error in the try and catch thing. So here it is using this, they are using JSON to deserialize that, and that will be like deserialized in the Apex data, and you can perform like you can use this S object, and then it will give you that S object name, and you can loop through that object, and you can perform whatever action you want to perform. Here they are just simply using the system.debug, and you can perform any action on that. That is the example for post. You can use that one also. So you just go through once with this trailhead, and you will get better understanding on that. Okay. So that is REST. Simply so this is the REST. Here you can see like it will. So this is SOAP, sorry, external application, and here you have to log in. So in the REST, what you can do is you can simply perform those action without. So you don't need to log in. You just need to give the external what endpoint, where it will have that there will be some unique key, so it will be having that unique key, and well, so you don't need to log in every time. But in the SOAP, it will this is a simple object access protocol, so here you need to pass the username and password for that. So on that, like you need to access that external resources by using the username and password, and you can, so it's very simple. You don't need to pass any endpoint and all here, and there will be that WSDL file will be using here that external resource, what in the response it will give you the that WSDL file. So and so there are some two types of WSDL file: enterprise and partner. So enterprise and partner, that simply give brief introduction about themselves. Like enterprise will be for all the enterprise level, like I can say every user, like developer also, like we are using with developer also, every developer org also can connect with this enterprise. If like some user or external resources are partner with the Salesforce, then that will be the WSDL partner WSDL. So let me show you this one also. This is the SOAP one. Okay. So and by using the Salesforce UI, you can generate the SOAP Apex. So if you want, if you want to create your API, then you can generate WSDL by from the setup gear, and you can generate WSDL, and you can provide your WSDL file to others. Okay, so let me show you how to go there. Okay, so whatever data you want to share with external resources, or you want to create a API with that, like let's say this I have this account, so license key controller, whatever data or whatever action you want to show, or whatever access you want to give to the external resources, you just need to, what you need to do is you just need to create a Apex class, and that Apex class you can generate WSDL from. So you can create a Apex class from this this button. So by going this Apex classes, you can see this generate from WSDL. So click on that, and you can you will have this enterprise and all things. So from here, if you have already WSDL, for now I don't have, I think. So from here, so you download this WSDL and just upload it here and pass WSDL, so it will give you the Apex class. So it will generate a Apex class, and you can use. So here also you can see this. It will generate the Apex class, and it will give you the Apex class. The application generate a default class name for each namespaces, and in WSDL document and report any error. So if there is any error, it will report that one and it will generate a default class for that WSDL. Okay, so that WSDL you can sorry, that class you can use, and so that's in that scenario. Let me show you. So in the to testing that, so they are testing something. So this is the testing for thing. So this is SOAP is very simple. Like if you have any WSDL file, just go to Apex classes and generate from WSDL, and it will give you the Apex class, which will be having all the like connection from external resources and all the field from the object, all the object and all, and that you can use author so you can use the endpoint like it is using here prerequisite execute the call out. So this it is using this this one sorry endpoint, and this you can use to authorize this one, and you can from anonymous window you can call this class, like let's say it is the name of this class, like calculator services, and this is the method of the class which is generated from the WSDL file, and you can call that one by using anonymous window, or yeah, by using this anonymous window. In the anonymous window you just simply call, you can create a object of that class, and here that result of, so do add this, there is a method like there might have some method which has two parameter like x and y double, and you can pass those and you can simply debug the class. So you can execute and you can see that class. So I'll like I also I also maybe not able to give you a more understanding on that, but you can simply go with the trailhead and try once with that. And if you have any question, let me know, so that I'll also try to give you understanding on that. Okay, so that is uh, the sorry, REST and SOAP API. So REST is very similar with others, Madhu, you are using with in .NET. So it is very similar that with other technology. SOAP may have some differences, like in you saw in Salesforce, we can generate Apex class by using the WSDL file, and you don't need to write class by step. You just simply go in the Apex UI and click on the button, and you upload that WSDL file and it will give you the class. So that is a very like easy thing, but there are some differences also. So you can go through once with that. And our last topic from today is test classes. So test classes are mandatory in Salesforce, where you want to deploy your code to another environment. So if you want your code to deploy to production from sandbox or any like lower environment, then you need to create Apex class, and the code coverage and that Apex class that should cover the code which is you have created and you have used in other classes or triggers, like let's say you have created a trigger, and the trigger you are going to deploy to another environment, like upper level of environment like production or any other environment. Then you need to write a sorry, Apex class, sorry, test class, and that test class should cover all the scenario, whatever scenario you have used in your class, sorry, trigger, and that test class should cover your triggers code, and it will collect like collect all the lines, and it will give you the percentage of code. And to deploy your code to production, you need to have at least 75% of code coverage for class. Okay, so that is the test class, and we can write. So test class is the like code snippet of your class, the actual class or trigger, where like let's say ki I'm creating a contact from account trigger. So in the test class, what you need to do is you need to create a dummy data, and you can create an account, and it will be the trigger will be performing based on the account creation, and then it should create that contact. So trigger should create that contact, and you can check that contact in the test class. So that's how you can use the test classes to cover the your actual classes or trigger, and you can deploy that too. And here are some must have true which are about test classes. So that unit test must cover at least 75% of all your classes, and these are some like Apex products. So this is very mandatory when you are going to deploy your code to production. And each unit test in your organization should namespace is your executed default. So that is like whenever you are creating, so you can create many number of test method in the test classes, and each method should and every method can contain another classes method in their test classes, and that classes should have a appropriate name with their method, so that you can know that which method is testing with which classes with method, so that you can perform. And system.debug are not able not counted with this test classes. So uh, if you are having 3 line of system out debug, and you have total 10 number of lines in your code, then that will be that percentage will be counted in from the 7 line of code. So the system.debug are not counted as part of your code. And so yeah, and so and trigger, your trigger, if you are using trigger, then trigger must be your trigger must have at least, well, how can I say, at least some percent of your code coverage. So trigger should have your code coverage, and it should compile with that. And so that is the test classes, and you can see. So I'll give you example over here in the trailhead only, so you can see test classes. So here to write test class, you need to write this annotation at the rate is test before your method name, and so before your class name, and also before your method name. So here you can see this full name of class. So is at the rate is test before the class name, and at the rate is state before the static sorry method name. And let's say ki I have this. So here it is for it is the class like temperature converter, and this is the method name and it is returning this decimal amount, and the name of the method is Fahrenheit to Celsius, and this is having this decimal as a value, and it is returning this decimal value. So here how you can test it, you can create a class like temperature converter test, and method name is test static void, and that name of method. You can also, if you don't want to use state before your method, then you can use test method, simple test method, and it will before like static void test method and the name of method. And that is also same with this, and that is also correct. And here what it is having, it is calling this class with this method, and it is passing 70 as a Celsius, and it will give you the return, and you can check that also. System dot assert equal, what it will do is it will check that two parameter you are passing to this, that should be the same. So if the both are not same, then it will give you error. If they both are same, then it will not give you error. So that should be correct. 21.11 should be the answer of this method name. So if this class here, you can also see another example of this one. So this is also, this is passing here 32, and here you can see that one. So that should also, you can check that negative thing also. If this is the -1, so that should be also, you can also check. So that's how this test class will work. So it is very simple when like and it will give you that like in classes. So let me give you here. So here you can see like code coverage. So right now I don't have any test class, and if you see over here, like if I'll go and make it like this, is test, then it will give you button over here to test. So it will give you this button. Now I have this, I have annotated this class as a is test. So this is the test class. Now you don't need to write anything before that. This is the simple only. You just need to write this @state before the class name, and this that annotation will give you this button, and you can just simply go ahead and click that one. So it will run this class, and it will check that particular method is performing action correctly or not. So let me remove that. And if you want like let's say this is the class which is tested by another class. So now this is not a test class, so you don't see this button over here. And this is class is tested by the test class, so you can come on that the class and source class, and you can see the code coverage. So now it is not having any code coverage, so it will give you the none. If you any class is having any coverage, then it will give you the coverage percentage. So how many percentage have been covered and all, so that you can see. So if any class have any percentage, then and it will give you this result. So this line is passing, this line is passing. The comment will not be the part of that test class, and this one also passing. So here this red will having the error, like it is not tested, or it is not like part of the test class. So this line is not covered, and this line also is not covered. So that will, it will give you this type of error. So you can see in your code, and you can simply go and test that particular line in your test class. So that's how this test class will work. And yeah, so there are some resources for all those topic. uh, yeah, any question on that? I know you have so many questions because like this is the part of integration, I guess. So if you have any question, please let me know, and go through once with the trailhead, so that you will have better understanding, and perform some action which is provided by the trailhead, like quizzes, and work with those in your org, and let me know if you have any question. Is there any question till now?